Hey everybody. I just wanted to record a quick intro to this podcast episode that kind of breaks down what has been going on with the Breathe Easy podcast. So, our guest on this episode is an incredible warrior. She is been through a lot of stuff as a parent, as a person. So I want you guys to give her a really warm welcome and a lot of support and get her story out there for other people that might have the same issue. And I want to go over and thank everybody for their support. I want to thank all of the people that have donated to the GoFundMe. You guys are incredible. You guys are really getting this dream up and going, and you're going to make such a big difference in the podcast quality. And I want to thank our patrons, which right now we have two patrons, Liddell Gallo Roberts and Rachel, our guest today on this episode. So please give her a warm welcome. Support her with all of your might, Breathe Easy fam. She really deserves it. I also want to say that now available, there is Breathe Easy shirts that you can buy. I have a Breathe Easy Pod shop on Etsy, and the t-shirts are now available with a bad design. They're really cool. They came out really nice, and I just want everybody to take a look, see if you like them. I like them as a shirt in general. I would wear a shirt like this. That's why I made them this way. It's not corny. It's not overly promo-y. It's really nice. It's a nice shirt. So please check it out. Very comfy too, I will add. Very comfortable. Oh, and I also want to add the music that was added in today's intro was played by our wonderful guest, Rachel. She plays the guitar and does a very good job at it. She is the intro for the podcast today. So give her a round of applause. Check out her YouTube channel. She has all of her guitar playing stuff there. So grab some chips, grab some popcorn, grab a soda, sit back and enjoy this episode of the Breathe Easy podcast. Thank you all so much. All right, everybody, welcome to the Breathe Easy podcast. We have a very special guest here with us today. She has been afflicted with a very rare disorder called TRPS. So, Rachel, you want to give us a little rundown?
Yeah, sure. On the disorder or like the whole story? Because there's a lot.
Let's start out with just the disorder itself.
Sure. So TRPS is a very rare type of something called a skeletal dysplasia. People with this disorder generally have problems with their bone growth, cartilage, and short stature, kidney problems, cardiac problems, and other issues related to it. And it's so rare, there's only about 250 cases. Yeah, it's really rare. And for me, there's no help here where I live. So I'm actually going to be traveling to the city to a rare disease center, and I contacted them to let them know, like, hey, this is my diagnosis. Can you help us? And they said, yes, we know this disease. You and your son are welcome to come by. We could see him here. We could coordinate his care because also it affects our teeth. It
Okay.
affects our mouths. It affects like our jaws. So I took my son to the doctor the other day. He has like issues with his teeth. And the
Yeah.
orthodontist said, like, before you even told me what the diagnosis was, I knew your son had a skeletal dysplasia. And I said, well, how did you know? He showed me the x-ray of his mouth, and like my kid's jaw is like at a 50-degree angle.
I think it's important to cover here too that not only Rachel is afflicted by this,
Yeah.
it's something that's going down her family line for how long did you say it was? 180 years?
1893 it started.
Wow.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
great-grandfather in Poland, and then they came over here, and then they had a whole bunch of us, and we
Yeah.
started realizing we've all had the same cluster of symptoms. No doctor has ever brought up any issue before. And the
Yeah.
thing about TRPS is it's called what it is because the long name is trichorhinophalangeal. So trichal means hair. People with this don't have hair. Hair we do have is very little. It's very fine. It's kind of like having toddler hair for life. You know how like they look like kind of like a thinned out the hair and like
Kind of like
short.
alopecia,
It is
right?
alopecia. Yes. So it affects our hair. It affects our eyebrows too. So like the outer third of my eyebrows are like non-existent. So yeah, I fill it in with makeup and it works. It's fine. I don't have eyelashes. Like the first third of my eyelashes are gone. They're just not
Oh,
there.
wow.
On the
Wow, and
top.
that must make your eyes irritated too, because I know eyelashes prevent a lot of dust and pollen from getting into the eyes.
Yeah, I have sensitive eyes. So the top lid has like one third of the eyelashes missing on, the first third of it. And
Yeah.
then on the bottom, what eyelashes I do have are very sparse and almost non-existent. So they're basically just absent. I also don't really have body hair, like it's just not there. like my arm
Okay.
hair.
Well,
I have
that's a
like
blessing
no.
for some people.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I
No
just want no.
waxing, none of that. Yeah.
Right, but I want to give people an idea because it is like alopecia, but it's not universal alopecia where you virtually have no body hair. It's more like you might have some, but what you do have is not a lot, and then it gets like thinned out later on, and you just end up not having it. So the trick is the hair stuff. The rhino is because of our noses. Our noses look very distinct. It's pear shaped, like the nose tip is pear shaped. Our noses tend to be like bulby, is what they describe it as.
That's what I understand now because you had said when we first reached out, it was almost like everybody in your family was a carbon copy,
Literally,
which I was confused. I was at first, I was like, what does she mean? And then I was like,
right.
whoa, I looked it up and everybody looks the same.
Right. So
It's
everybody
crazy.
with the disorder looks related, literally. And it's
Wow.
almost like if we all came from one person. And,
I wonder if you guys have like some crazy common ancestor that, you know what I mean?
yeah, I think about that too, and I'm not really sure. So the rhino's the nose because the noses look a certain way, and then the phalangeal has to do with our fingers. So
Okay.
yeah, so
The
people,
phalanges.
yeah, congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know some anatomy. It's really weird. After the 2 years old, so after we're two, if we go to get an X-ray of
Yeah.
our hand and our wrist, you will see that our fingers are cone shaped, our finger bones.
Oh, wow.
It's not normal to have cone-shaped phalanges. There are some other genetic disorders that do have cone-shaped phalanges as a symptom, but when you're looking at the whole clinical picture, the bent fingers with the cone-shaped epiphysis, they call it, the cone-shaped fingers, that's like the distinctive hallmark of this disorder. But there's always
Yeah.
more symptoms. So, like, we all have the same faces. We all have the cone shaped phalanges. And they did studies on this, and the cone shaped phalanges is pretty much everybody. That's just how it is. Like, we all just have those features. And then the short stature and the growth problems. Some people have it, some don't. I didn't. And I mentioned this earlier. Actually, very tall for somebody with the disorder. But when I talk to other people in the Facebook group, they're like, "Oh, I'm only like 4'8", 4'9". I'm under
Oh,
5 feet
wow.
tall." The women, yeah, yeah. So it's really interesting. But yeah, so TRPS is named what it is because of the common features found in the hair, the nose, and the hands. So this is how it works. It's really interesting. People with TRPS may or may not have growth hormone deficiency. So some of us are short because we have growth hormone deficiency. Some of us are not. The ones that don't have growth hormone deficiency are short because of the following. With TRPS, our skeletons, when we're young, have a very delayed bone age, which our skeletal age and our actual age do not match. So I could be 10 years old, but my bones say I'm 4, like I'm 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't know if it's that delayed, but it's always a few years delayed. But then what happens is after a certain point, bone age accelerates. So we get that lag and then we get it speeding up and then it closes the growth plates early and
Yeah.
we end up short as a result. It's really interesting. It's like it
That's
had the
super
delayed
interesting.
effect, then it has the speed up effect. Our growth plates close early, and that's that, and you're stuck at whatever height you end up being at, you know?
Wow. And is there
Yeah,
any like vitamin deficiencies that go along with any of that?
yeah.
Vitamin D deficiencies,
Yeah, so
anything like that?
people with TRPS can sometimes have what they call osteopenia of the bones, which is weakening from like lack of certain vitamins, calcium, vitamin D is important, and things like that. But a lot of people are also, especially in North America where we are
Yeah.
vitamin D deficient because we just don't see the sun.
True.
And you don't really want, they say you only need 10 minutes a day of
Yeah.
sun activity to get vitamin D, but it's also in milk and in other like products. So vitamin D is fortified. So
Yeah.
yes, it really depends on the person. Some of us could be lagging with
It's cloudy over there
vitamins.
in New Jersey for sure. I know that it's pretty cloudy over there, right?
Literally, yeah. We got snow yesterday, so no
Whoa.
sun for no.
California, I don't know. I don't even know what snow looks like, you know?
Bring
I
it
hope
over
there's
to New York.
I'm looking for water over here, you know?
Come on over. You guys have droughts.
Yeah, for
You guys
sure.
got like restricted on your grass.
Then it pours out of nowhere and we get these things called atmospheric rivers and then the mudslides start happening, you know? It's
And you have the
crazy.
fires. Oh my
Yeah. Yeah, we just had an atmospheric river actually that just started pouring and we had a lot of mudslides out here. Yeah, it's pretty scary out here. It's not what they show you in Hollywood, you know?
Yeah,
So
so the reason why we're short is because our skeleton lags and then it speeds up. Growth plates fuse earlier than they should normally. There are
yeah.
ways you may prevent it. Sometimes growth hormone injections can help, but they don't always work. And I actually looked up to see if that was something that they do for kids with it because I wasn't sure, but now my son is, and he's having the problem that most kids with TRPS do, is which is being short stature. He's years old and the size of a 6-year-old, so like every kid is bigger than him. And the literature says like a growth hormone might not work. Or it may work. So we're going to go to an endocrinologist very soon in March, and then they'll do the hand X-ray, they'll do the bone age study. They could see where his skeleton is and his growth
Yeah.
plates are, and they could see how much time he has left to grow.
Those growth hormones can be really
Yeah, they have side
brutal.
effects. Yeah,
Yeah, they can be really brutal.
I don't know if that's an option for us. It may be, it may not be. I don't know. But you know what? I will love my son no matter what size he ends up being because he's the best kid in the whole world.
When did you have him again? You said
2014.
he's okay.
So he's 10. So he's almost 10 and a half now.
And when did you start seeing these signs?
Oh, when he was born. It's an insane story. So what happened was,
I'm here for it.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure they all will be too. When he was born, a doctor in the hospital, the in-hospital pediatrician who was attending to him, because that's what happens when you have a baby. There's one doctor for the mom that takes care of the mom, and there's the pediatrician in the hospital that takes care of the baby and administers the vaccine and does all the Apgar tests and all that stuff. He actually ran genetic testing on my child. And I did
Okay.
not know. He never said why, but what happened was is I went through the discharge papers and I saw that he had done 2 types of genetic testing, and I'm like, "Huh, this is weird." That is not a standard test. I really want people to understand that they don't just do that on babies. So we had this genetic testing, and on the papers, it said he has these facial features. So in his case, it was like a depressed nasal bridge, a webbed neck, a high arched palate, which means basically the roof of his mouth is very tall and narrow. So I'm like, "Okay, what is
Yeah.
this?" Like, he never talked to me about it, but, he was a very fussy child, and I had a lot going on. I was recovering from my surgery, the C-section and everything like that. So I just kind of like forgot about it. And then at 2 months old, he was 0 percentile. He started out at 24. So he was in the 24th percentile when he was born, 7 pounds, 19 inches, which is pretty respectable. He was born full term baby. But in between those 2 months, he had gone from the 24th to 0. For
Oh,
people who don't understand pediatrics, 0 is not good. It just means
yeah.
every child in the world is bigger than that kid. And I
Wow.
thought that was a little weird because he was born full term. All the state newborn testing came back fine. The carrier testing they did because I'm Ashkenazi. So they checked for like CF and other
Yeah.
diseases too, just to make sure. And he was okay with that. The only thing in utero I can say that was a problem was his legs were measuring behind. They were short. So I think that was like the first indication. The genetic testing results don't really, when you look up all those symptoms, they don't really point to anything like direct.
Concrete.
Correct. They're all like general descriptions. And to be fair, as you get older, your features do change. Understand that. But now he's 2 months old and he has a growth problem. It wasn't just a growth problem. He wasn't also developing when he should be. Like he wasn't walking when he should. He wasn't talking when he should.
Yeah. Let
And
me just say that Ashkenazi, I found out through my CF that I had Ashkenazi and I was like,
see?
"Oh man, yeah, I
So
had no idea."
Yeah, Ashkenazis in terms of CF, we are the biggest carriers of the CF gene as well as
Yeah.
Tay-Sachs and other diseases. So those panels are very like important.
Yeah, here I
They
am just
might
thinking I'm Italian and, I look through my
no.
genetic report and there's Ashkenazi. I was like, "Whoa."
So
Safe
now
to
you
say
have
that's where I got the CF.
oh yeah, blame whoever's Ashkenazi in your family for that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so he wasn't, growing, he wasn't developing right. Like he was, like I said, not walking when he should have, not talking when he should have. He wasn't reaching his milestones. His teeth very delayed. He didn't get his first tooth until like his first birthday.
Oh, wow.
So, every month for the first year.
So he should have been able to start eating solid food just around that time or like semi-solids, right?
So
Around
he
1
was
year.
able to eat solids at 6 months, but he wasn't like crawling when he should have. He
Oh.
was crawling at the time most kids are walking.
Oh, wow.
So at 12 months, he was just learning to crawl, but he should have been learning to what they call cruising, where they stand up and they kind of just like walk around supported. And, I thought that was weird. The doctor at 12 months, I know some other other things, like he was stimming a lot and, not babbling like other kids would. And,
Yeah.
so I said, "Oh, I think my son's autistic," to the doctor, and he smiled at Oliver. Oliver smiled back, told me my son wasn't autistic because of that, and let me on my way. And I'm like, "Okay, fine." A few months later, he tells me to come back if, he's still not reaching milestones, and I do. And I said, "Hey, my kid is still not 16 months." So we're at 16 months. So
Yeah.
12 months not walking, 16 months still not doing the same thing, not talking, not walking. And he goes, "You know what? You need a referral for early intervention." I say, "Okay, great." So I do, and they test him and they say, "Oh, sorry to tell you, your son's autistic." I said, "Look, I know that. So, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm on it. Whatever we need to do, we'll do for him." And
Thanks, Mr. Doctor.
yeah, thanks,
You
Mr.
found out for
Psychologist.
yeah.
Yeah. So, he gets the appropriate help and everything, but at 17 months, he had just started walking. And that's
Yeah.
very late for a kid. I'm going to tell you. Like they say,
Oh, of
oh,
course.
boys develop slower. I'm telling you from a developmental perspective, that's late.
Yeah, especially
So,
for you that's about a year and a half almost, and he's not walking.
right, he's not walking. He's not even trying to walk. That was the thing. He
Oh,
he didn't start walking until he was like 17 and a half months old, almost 18 months, close to his second birthday at this point. So, we do the early intervention and everything, and he's hitting to be 2 years old now. And the pediatrician that I take him to is like actually concerned now. So this is the
yeah.
first time somebody's actually been concerned about his growth. Prior to that, it's just come every month, do his weight and his height. We'll just keep eyes on it every month and, whatever. So the doctor said, "I think your baby might maybe have some kind of like dwarfism going on because his head is so big compared to the rest of his body, and he has something called frontal bossing, which is, an achondroplasia where like the forehead like kind of protrudes." Okay, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
So she refers me to different doctors, start seeing so many different doctors. One doctor, pulmonologist, tests him for CF, thinking it's CF because he's not having good growth. And that's
Yeah.
to be fair, he was also getting a lot of respiratory symptoms. So he was sick
Oh,
constantly with sinus infections, sick constantly with ear infections, and sick just all the time in
and
general.
is that something that TRPS actually can
Yes.
cause? Wow.
Yes. In medical literature, it says that TRPS, for some reason, even though it's not an immune disorder, it doesn't affect our immune system. It makes us more susceptible to respiratory problems because my sister, who I think also has TRPS because she looks like us,
Yeah.
she is sick all the time. And she also went to the immunologist, and the immunologist says, "Your immune system is fine." But
Oh,
her working in a hospital, she was sick with everything. And we are sick with this stuff to the point where we get septic and we go to the
oh my
hospital.
gosh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like she had septic pneumonia, and I've had sepsis with like a kidney infection and other kinds of infections and cellulitis and all these things. So
Yeah.
looking back, it's definitely caused by TRPS. So he does see an ENT, and ENT takes out the adenoids, takes out his tonsils. These are very routine things for children, and then puts in ear tubes. So suddenly he's able to hear. Any hearing damage that he had mild hearing loss, is gone. It's reversed. Mucus isn't clogging up his sinuses anymore. Mucus isn't clogging up his ears anymore. He starts to learn to talk. So we're going to the ENT. We got that solved. We go to pulmonology and make sure it's not CF or something else. We go to immunology and endocrinology because he's not growing correctly. He's just very small for his age, which is strange given that I'm 5'7" and dad is like 5'10", 6 feet. For our baby to have like 0 percentile in height is very weird.
That is very strange.
Very, very strange, especially because I did not have the same growth pattern as my child. If I did,
Yeah.
I would have said, "Okay, he just got it from me," and let it go. If he just grows very small and slow.
And I wanna
So,
add to this that, this is a parent's nightmare, this type of
oh
stuff.
yeah,
People don't even understand that. They'll go, "Oh, well, you should just listen to the doctor and you should ju"
yeah.
but this stuff is serious. It keeps parents awake at night. They're gonna have to do what they have to do for their kid.
Yes, and, I was kinda grateful that at least at this point, the doctors were trying to, rule out all the common stuff first, so, like, thyroid is fine, growth hormone is fine,
Yeah.
all the immunology, he's fine, cool. Then we get to the geneticist, and this is where it all falls apart. The geneticist sees my child twice. He
Yeah.
looks at my child, says, "My child doesn't look like he has anything, he's fine," and that's it.
Oh, man. Wow.
And this is a guy who's trained to look at odd facial features, odd body features, and things like that. And he just says, "Oh, your kid is fine. He doesn't look like he has anything."
Oh my gosh.
But that doesn't make sense to me because why did that first doctor in the hospital order genetic testing? Clearly, he thought
They knew. They knew.
right.
Yeah.
So clearly, that doctor in the beginning had seen something, recognized those features we talked about, and thought something was up. But
Yeah.
then
A
I think
caring
those,
doctor makes all the difference. It
and I
doesn't
gotta
matter
say,
what their specialty is. A caring
no,
doctor makes
this
all the
guy was a
difference.
NICU doctor too. Even though my child was not in the NICU, he just happened to be the pediatrician on call when my son was born and everything like
Yeah.
that. And he was a NICU doctor. So NICU doctors are also highly trained people. They're
And
trained
caring.
to,
Very caring.
yeah, I mean, they got to intubate little like kids with the airways that are so
Yeah.
tiny,
You have to be caring for doing something like
kids
that.
that have
Yeah.
like catastrophic genetic problems or birth problems. So yeah, they're very caring, very skilled, very highly trained. But the geneticist was just like, "Hey, your kid's fine. See you in a year." Okay, cool. We go back, same thing. Your kid's fine. Come back in a year, whatever. We keep doing that and keep doing the shuffle from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. And then the endocrinologist did like say, "Oh, we should do a bone age study, but we can't do it now because he's really young. Let's just wait." And I said, "Okay, that makes sense." COVID hits. So when he's 5 years old, so I'm like 2 to 4 every year, geneticist and whatever, trying to follow it up. And then the pandemic hits, and that put the kibosh on like everything because people were
Yeah.
dying,
That's
and
absolutely scary, especially for somebody who has a weaker immune system or gets sick quite often. That's
yeah.
terrifying.
Well, I had COVID 3 times.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I've gotten
Each
all my
time worse than the
vaccines.
last?
So no, it's actually the opposite. The first time I had COVID, it was 1 month of sickness straight. I was out of work for a month. It was horrible. I
Yeah.
I had no energy. I was coughing a lot. Like it was just it was really, really horrible. It
Oh
took
man.
1 month to recover. Second time, I was feeling sick, but it only lasted 2 weeks, and it was mostly, like, I had problems standing, like, it hurt to stand or move or walk. I had a
Huh.
lot of muscle weakness with that one. Third time, it actually just felt like a cold, and I was fine after, like, 3 days.
There you go.
Yeah.
Immune system's working.
Yeah, so, COVID, put a halt to everything, and I understand that, that's completely correct. My kid doesn't have a life-threatening illness or injury or whatever. Like, there's no point dragging him to doctors when doctors are so overworked just trying to help out in hospitals with the pandemic because 'cause they're getting called in to help work and, things like that. Fine, okay, whatever. So, pandemic hits, 3 years of, everything being shut down.
Terror.
Yeah,
10 years of
terror is
terror.
right. 3 years of terror, that's a good way to put it. 3 years of terror, and I'm still growing concerned about my kid. And then, like this past year, his 10th birthday, we took him to the doctor for vaccines, like you're supposed to. And I'm like, hey, look, my kid is 10 years old now and he's only 4 feet tall. Every kid
Yeah.
in his school that's in his grade is taller than him.
Yeah.
He's only in the second percentile for height now. So he did go from 0 to 2 over the 10 years, but 2 is still the bottom of the barrel. Anything under the 5th percentile is considered short stature. So I said, "Hey, like I'm concerned. Is there
You
like
said this was
something?"
just like an episode of House MD. You messaged me,
Yes.
and it is. It's really great show, by the way. It is shaping out to be like that.
It is because also I have other diagnoses and heart problems and the kidney problems that we now know are related to this disorder. But I thought because I was born 3 months early that it was just something that happened to me.
Like preemie stuff, like with
Yes.
premature.
I
Yeah.
always thought maybe, oh, maybe my kidneys were not developing correctly because I was born at like 26 or 27 weeks. Mid 80s, you had almost no survival rate. So my parents were like told not to expect me to survive
You're a
or
survivor,
whatever.
Rachel.
I'm
For
like, it's
the
like that Reba song.
yeah, as a
The Reba theme.
Reba.
Yeah.
We will put
No.
Reba as the cover, the thumbnail here.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, right. So I was born 3 months early and I was only 3 pounds. I was in the NICU. I was the NICU baby in this case. My son wasn't, but I was, and in the incubator and everything like that. I got better. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I got better and I started growing normally, but my son was not growing normally. So, 10th birthday, I'm like, hey, come on, I'm concerned here. What do you think? Oh, don't worry about it. He's approaching the growth curve. I was so disappointed. I left that visit so frustrated. And you know what? I kind of get it because I did look at his growth chart. When he was 7 years old, he was in the 0.5 percentile. So under the first percentile, half of the
Yeah.
first percentile for height. And then now
Oh
he's
man.
2%. So I get kind of why he's saying this, but then again, I explained to his pediatrician, look, he's been to genetics, he's been to different doctors. he had the genetic testing when he was born. These were the indications for it. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
concerned that there's an actual medical reason for this. And he just says you're fine. And it's hard because you start thinking maybe I'm just reading in too much of the genetic stuff. Maybe he's just fine. The
You
genetic
can
stuff.
never read too much when you're a concerned mom.
No, but these are the kind of thoughts that went through my head. Is like, am I reading too much into it? Am I looking for something that's not there? Because again, no one's ever said anything about my body or his body other than he was measuring short a little bit in utero with his long bones. So his leg bone was short.
Because they're not researching it, I think because it's so rare, doctors aren't usually reading up on this type of stuff, and they should be. It should be their job.
So I'm wondering if maybe the geneticist has never seen a case of it, so he can't tell because people can't see what I look like, but I look like people who have
You
it.
said you're the only one in your state that has this, right? Only family, even in the state that
I
has that.
Yeah, yeah, that's how rare
And
it
what
is.
do you know about the numbers in the United States as a total? Do you in the communities? I'm sure you go to like Facebook communities, Reddit
Yeah.
communities.
So there's a TRPS Facebook community, which is really nice. It's a worldwide community. So these are people from all sorts of different countries, from like Turkey, Denmark, United
Yeah,
States. There's like 200 to 250 worldwide. I don't know how many people are in the United
that is
States.
very, very rare. They call CF very rare, and CF has
Yeah.
only hundreds of thousands of patients. So for 250, that is extremely, extremely rare for
Yeah, because I
worldwide.
think with CF, it's like 1 in 30 is a carrier.
Yeah, yeah, and they perceive that as rare. Just to let everybody know, 250 worldwide is super rare. Super,
Yeah, it
super rare.
really is. I want to know that too because I also want to know if certain mutations are in certain populations of people. Like with CF, there are certain like the Ashkenazis have the certain CF mutations that they'll carry. So I'm kind of wondering if it's the same thing with me. But anyway, so he's 10 years old. Doctor saying everything's okay. Don't really worry about it too much. And I'm texting my son's aunt because she's a nurse at a hospital. And she's
Yeah,
like, how was his appointment? What did the doctor say about his growth? I said, he's not concerned about it. I tried explaining to him that like I'm worried about his height, his size, and that he has a
yeah.
history of like poor growth.
How is he doing as far as
Oh,
academically
he's
right
great.
now?
His IQ is normal. He graduated
Oh,
from
that's
all the
awesome.
service. Yeah. So he used to get PT and OT. He graduated from all that. He has no services anymore. He's a very popular kid. He's
That's so
loved
cool.
by everybody. Yeah, I'm really happy for him. And I think he's come a long way from like that kid that didn't walk and talk. He's excelling at swimming. He takes swimming lessons. He's going to join their swim team. Like he's doing
That
really,
is very
really
incredible
good.
because most kids, when they are that far back, when they're developing young like that, they rarely come back from it. And for somebody
Yeah.
to actually break through that barrier is a really big deal.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe I'm just because of me and I'm strong, I beat whatever odds
Yeah.
I was given to my family and then him. I also encourage him to be the most normal kid he could be. I don't make his size an issue except if we're talking medically. So anytime
Yeah.
we go to the doctor, I make it an issue.
For the Super Bowl, I saw there was an ad that they put out for people with Down syndrome. And it was a really good ad. It was basically the premise was you have to allow me to do the things normal people do in order to be
Yes,
normal, because if you
exactly.
hold me back, I'm not going to be. I'm going to be what everybody thinks I'm going to be.
Right, and with any kind of genetic condition, no matter what, if it's CF, if it's Down syndrome or whatever, everybody puts you in
Yeah,
a box. Once you tell them you have CF, they're gonna go, I bet you have really bad lungs, and that's all they're gonna think about you.
of course. Yeah.
But as we know, CF is more than just a lung disease, and you're
It's a
more
whole
than
body disease.
correct. But that's not what people picture in their mind. They picture the lung
Exactly.
problem.
And that's why I'm saying I think in your case and in your son's case, I don't think these people are studying on it as much as they should be. Because I think if they did, they would know. And if you have to be the one to study, then I guess so be it.
So that's what
Maybe they should put
happened.
you on the payroll,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You should be making that doctor money, you know?
Yes, and I got so frustrated, and his aunt is like, "Hey, would the doctor say, oh, he's fine, he's fine?" And she's like, "Rachel, your kid's not fine." I said, "I know this. I go to every doctor, and I'm trying to explain this to them, and no one's just really listening." I get that, yeah, they're doing their common stuff. Now, when the common stuff is ruled out, you have to start looking at the rare things.
Of
Yeah,
course.
when somebody walks in 9 times out of 10, they're not going to have some rare genetic problem. They might have something else instead. I get that. But we've been to every doctor that we were referred to. They did all their testing that they were done within their scope. Like a pulmonologist is a lung doctor. They're not going to be doing GI stuff or whatever else. They were doing what they were supposed to in their scope, but I was just not getting answers.
Of course. I want to take a moment to thank my mom because my mom, when I was growing up, I used to have what they would call them, our panic attacks, but I couldn't breathe very well. My heart would beat out of my chest. And this is about when I was 4 or 5 years old. And my mom went to the doctor and they did all of that stuff you're saying right now. They would brush it under the rug as, oh, it's probably just some anxiety thing. It's probably just this or that. And, my mom said to the doctor, before we do any of this mental health stuff. She said, I want you to run MRIs. I want you to do everything that you can do to possibly rule out physical before we go towards the mental. And they ran all of those MRIs. But the doctor told my mom, he's a 5-year-old, right? And my mom said, I don't care. We're going to do it and we're going to get these tests done and we're going to make sure he's okay. And
Wow.
that's a mom's love. These mothers out there that are struggling with this with their children, that's so important that you advocate for your child and don't let the doctors, dismiss you like that.
Yeah, your mom sounds like a wonderful advocate. Like, I hope
She's
you treat
awesome.
her great on Mother's
She's
Day.
awesome. Yeah, no, she's awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to shout her out real quick.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. And
Yeah.
I mean, I did have my health issues when I was younger with the kidney problem and everything. But my mom took care of it. And again, she did the best that she could. Like, she was a nurse, so she did do whatever she had to do. We always at the doctor every time I had a UTI, because that's what the kidney problem does, is it causes constant UTIs. I was always at the doctor. I spent like my childhood in the doctor's office, in the hospital. I had surgery when I was 12 during Christmas break. Like, that was rough. I still remember it because
Yeah.
Santa came and he almost ripped out my IV pole because my mom had told me there was $1 at the nurse's desk if I would get up and walk, and I ran so fast I almost ripped out my own
That might have been it. Santa might have killed you by accident.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But, you learn to adapt and you have child life and I understand. So I can't say that it was utter crap and I didn't have any fun. Like, my parents still let me be a kid and all that stuff. But his aunt was saying, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why are you playing doctor? And I'm like, Ashley, I think at this point I have to. And I shouldn't have to.
Yes.
I'm not getting answers. My kid has this growth problem. Nobody can tell me why. The people that are trained to detect problems are not doing so. So I get this idea to download Face2Gene. And to
Okay.
give an idea of what Face2Gene is, it's a tool that is meant for doctors. I cannot stress this enough. This is for doctors and clinicians. And I work in
Yeah.
healthcare, so I'm able to have access to it. I
Yeah.
do
And
not
can you let
recommend.
everybody know what you do in healthcare?
Yeah, I work in the nurse's office at a school. And I've had to call 911 a few times. I've had to do stuff, let me just tell you. But I love it. I work in healthcare and I love it. And through my job, I'm able to access this app. And I
Okay.
said to myself, well, I'm not getting any answers from the doctors. My son's got this problem, can't figure it out. What happens if I put my face, not my child's face, but what
Yeah.
happens if I put my face into it? And it came back with something, and I'm like, what? What?
Oh,
'Cause
wow. And
I
that's
was
that picture you
confused.
sent me, right? The picture
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
wow.
So I was confused because from what I understand, Face2Gene is actually very accurate in detecting syndromes. So the chances of this being wrong was very low. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I've never even heard of this disorder. And I was like, what is this? I start doing research and looking at clinical journals. So not like WebMD, not Chat GPT, but like actual medical research. And then I come
Yeah.
across these pictures. And then when I see these people and I see what the clinical description is of it, and I see the pictures of the hands, their feet, and their faces, I was like, oh my
Oh
God,
my
this is
gosh.
it. What is this? Is this the answer? Like, I think so. And, I start calling my mom. I said, Mom, all those problems all of our uncles had, and, that you have, and that I've had, and, so
Yeah.
forth. Everybody in the family, Mom, I think we have this. She is like, what? So she starts looking it up. I said, Mom, because she's a nurse, she can also access Face2Gene. Mom, can you put your face into it and let me know what it says? And again, same thing, like a big exact match. Like
Yeah.
in the app itself, there's a meter and it goes from like low to high. If the meter says low, it's detecting a very low level of the disorder and it's probably telling you don't have it. But with Face2Gene, this was like an exact match. Like, it was 100%, like the highest part of the meter, 100%. that you
Oh,
could get. So I was like, "Huh, this is weird." But I'm like, "But what if we don't fit the clinical picture?" So that's why I was like, "Oh, let me do the research." And I was like, "Mom, this is like looking into a mirror." These She goes, "Where did you get this?" I said, "Oh, well, the clinical journals, mother. Let me send you the link to it." And so I did, and she's like, "They look like us." I said, "Yeah, mom. I think this is the mystery in our family that we haven't been able to solve since 1893. But before you get too excited, I just want to make sure we get tested and we figure it out because I don't want to tell you that we have something and then we don't have it. And then we end up disappointing because then we still don't have that answer." So this is what happened. The makers of Phase 2 Gene, they're called FDNA. They have a
okay.
website you can go on and you can input your pictures and you can do something what is called a child development tracker. It's like a questionnaire. It comes up with questions about your child, growth, facial features, size of their ears, any diagnoses that they have already, heart problems, kidney problems, any kind of problems that they have, and it goes through it. And then at the end it says, well, your kid is suggested of having a syndrome. You should make a genetic counseling appointment. You can do it this way. So we did. We did the genetic counseling appointment, and I'm talking to the genetic counselor over the phone. I'm explaining that I put my face into Phase 2 Gene and it came out with a match for TRPS. And that's the concern right now because my child looks like people with it. We look like people with it. I think this might be the answer to his growth issues. So the genetic counselor says, "You know what? You're absolutely right. I think there's a big chance that it is
You
CRPS."
think? Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
think?
think?
Yeah,
We
come
literally
on.
look, we're like walking
You're
textbook.
twins.
And you know what's really funny? When I was growing up, everybody said, "You're your mother's twin." And even you said, "You don't it doesn't make sense to tell people that you're carbon copies," because you're right. People are not really carbon copies of facially or feature-wise of their parents or the people usually. Usually
Yeah.
there's some kind of discrepancy between people. Like even my son, he looks like me, but he has better eyelashes than I do. And he's got
Wow.
brown eyes. He doesn't have so even though he looks a lot like me, he still has different features from me. But in my case, everybody in my family literally just
But
copied
I
me.
got that from what you said because the face shapes, the nose shape.
So it's weird because growing up, we always said like we had the mom gene. And that's how we used to
Yeah,
describe it, the mom gene. We just look like each other because of the mom gene. We have all the
yeah.
same features because of the mom gene. Okay, so genetics run strong in my family. Okay, I get that. All right, kind of makes sense. But then when you're thinking about it looking back, you're like, well, we all have the joint problems, hair problems, facial features.
A little too closely resembling in those senses, yeah.
Literally. Like, if you
Yeah.
could copy and paste them faces onto each other, I think that's what we would look like.
Yeah, that's a real indicator, because a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, you look like your dad," or "You look like your mom," but, yeah, to have the same
Literally,
fingers,
literally, we have the
yeah,
same
that stuff is
fingers. All of
yeah.
our fingers are crooked on our index fingers. This is a big hallmark of the disease. This is like one of the biggest features is the bent fingers. I
Yeah.
mean, we have other things too. Like my mom has really short toes. I have short toes. I wear size 8 feet, but my toes are tiny. The rest of it is like just the length of my foot. So like thinking back, somebody should have picked up on it, but they never did.
You're just gonna have to take your whole family down to the geneticist and say, "Look, look at
Yeah.
us," you know?
For real. No, for real. I think probably should be studied because my mom's still alive. The two brothers are not alive, but I'm alive. My kid's alive. My sister's alive. And other family members that probably have this are alive. So the genetic counselor says, yes, TRPS makes sense. There's a program where we can do a large genetic panel, test for 358 genes. One of them is TRPS. It's free. Follow up genetic counseling is free. I said, great. So it took 10 days between the kit arriving, the processing, and the report. And while we were having that long wait period, 10 days doesn't seem like a lot, but it is when you're waiting for results that could affect your whole entire life. Right. So, I was like, oh, but then what if it doesn't come back? Everything else has been so normal so far. Like, what if it says nothing and then we're stuck and we still have no mystery? So it was a really long wait. It felt like forever. 10 days, it's not a long time, but in my mind, it felt
It
like
felt like forever, yeah, for
one day
sure.
felt like forever, let alone 10 days. 10 days go by. I pick up my son from after school program. It's like 3:40. I pick him up so it's like around 4 o'clock now. And I'm checking the portal. And I was checking the portal every day anyway. just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case. So I'm checking the portal at like 4 o'clock on Monday, last Monday, and it said pathogenic variant found for TRPS1. And then the
Oh,
genetic
wow.
report says this is considered a positive result.
And you got all of this testing done through your provider, right? Through
No,
the
not even
actual.
no, a telehealth. No, because I wasn't getting answers from there.
Yeah.
This is a separate company. They are a medical company, a pharmaceutical bio, whatever company. They're
Yeah.
not. So they do genetic testing. This is an
I was
actual.
gonna say because, I had my experience with the genetic testing side of things. I have Kaiser, and they were like, "This is one of the most expensive tests that you can get done with Kaiser. It's extremely expensive."
What happened in my case is the skeletal dysplasia panel was through a partner program with a different company, and we got it for free. Yeah, you're gonna be paying what, like 500, 600, maybe
There,
even
yeah,
more.
it's a ridiculous amount of money, especially out here in California. It's, like 1,000 something dollars out here. Yeah,
Yeah, and Long Island, we're exactly the same. We
yeah.
live close to Manhattan. So California and Long Island have a very specific, like high cost of living. Everything costs a lot of money. It's true. It's very true.
Paying just to learn what's wrong with you is
Or
pretty
not wrong with
pretty.
you, as I
Yeah,
found out in some of
exactly.
our cases. Right. So like the geneticist was billing and getting paid for something, but not getting us answers. But anyway, so this company does the panel for free. And again, pathogenic variant found. This is what it means. So I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
guys what this variant was. So with TRPS, you only need
Oh,
one
wow.
copy of a mutated gene. It's not like CF where you need
Yikes.
two,
You need
and
2
then you
from each
only get
parent.
like a 25% chance, right? This is 50-50.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
yes.
crazy.
So they said in the report a frame shift mutation, pathogenic means disease causing. So a frame shift mutation in genetics means an insertion or deletion. In this case, it means on the TRPS1 gene at this specific location, the mutation is called C.2179 underscore 2180 del. Del
Oh,
means
wow.
delete. So this is the chromosome 8. This is where the TRPS gene lives on, chromosome 8, in a certain position. I think the C might mean codon. And
Yeah,
so those two proteins, that area is a deletion of the two base pairs, they call it.
yeah.
So in my case, it means that it causes TRPS1. And I looked it up, and this mutation has been reported in clinical journals as disease causing. So in my case, it ends up being part of TRPS1. Yes, you 100% have it. This is the variant. It's pathogenic. We know it causes disease. And I said, great, because, now we have an answer.
Yeah.
But
I think what's important is leading up to that point and to getting your genetic testing, you had all kinds of issues, right? You were saying you had all of the UTIs, you had POTS.
so if you want to talk about how those stories happen, I could definitely talk about that.
Yeah, let's dive into what got you to those genetic testings.
So when I was 12, I had the kidney surgery to fix my reflux. Testing for the reflux, Zach, I'm going to tell you, is horrible. And I'm going to describe it because I want people to understand what this does to a little kid. It's called a VCUG, and it's a type of fluoroscopy test where they take x-rays of you peeing on a table. It's
Yeah,
disgusting. I mean, I
yeah.
understand it when you need to do it, but like being 5, 6 years old and you're like
That's
held down by
really, really
doctors.
mortifying.
If Yeah, exactly. To pee on a table in front of a team of doctors to figure out what's wrong with you is
And is it still
horrible.
performed that way to this day?
Yes, and there's a study,
Wow.
and they're saying now they try to do sedation or try to use anesthesia, but this was 1990 something.
Yeah.
So this was like, if you don't comply, we just hold you down, and that's what they did.
Ay, 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 that's really scary.
Yeah, so it was terrible. It makes me like want to cry to think about like how that was done to a kid. I understand there was a medical benefit. I'm not going to say it wasn't helpful, but I'm just telling you that a VCUG is very humiliating.
A little outdated for sure,
Yeah,
method of
yeah.
doing things.
So that test showed that I had kidney reflux. So at 12 years old, I had the surgery because I had grades 3 in one kidney and grade 4 in the other, and grade 5 is the worst. So grades 3 and 4 are considered moderate. Stage 5 is severe. Stage 3 and 4 is moderate kidney problems. And when you get to grade 4 at this point, your ureters, which like connect, I think, the kidneys to the bladder, and it's like the pipe that holds everything together between the
Yeah.
bladder and the kidneys. When it's stage 4, they dilate and twist. So, you have to get this fixed or you're gonna end up with a kidney transplant down the line. You're gonna end up with, like, kidney damage that's not revert
Definitely some jaundice.
a lot of other stuff. Yeah, yeah, some serious stuff. So, at 12 years old, I got the surgery and I was like, great, because now I'm cured. I have no residual kidney damage. I can promise you my kidney function is great. It's normal now. It's everything that it's supposed to be. So from ages 12 to 24, I lived a great life. I went to college. I was like I was just doing things, living life, going to the city, hanging out with friends, like just doing what, a normal person does.
Yeah.
So one fateful day over spring break in college,
Okay.
so this is the year 2009.
Good year.
Spring
Good year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Spring of two except for what happens next.
Yeah.
Spring of 2009, I'm on spring break. It's my sister's birthday. Her birthday's in March, so this would be like in April or something. I'm not even doing anything. Like I can tell you, I'm not a party person. I never smoked. I never like did it. So this was just like a birthday, just going out to dinner type of thing, or going to wherever we wanted to go for my sister's birthday. Normal. We're not going crazy. We're not clubbing. We're not drinking. We're not
Yeah.
smoking. Like
Yeah.
no, no. We're just having like a normal midday brunch or lunch or whatever. And I'm in the parking lot and I'm getting out of the car and my chest starts hurting a lot. And I'm like, this is weird. And I start kind of
Uh,
like crying. And I'm a very tough person, but I was crying because it was very painful. It hurt to breathe. And I've
Yeah.
never experienced this before. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What's going on? So my sister calls an ambulance because I was just like panicking
Yeah.
at that point because I was like, my chest hurts. Like, oh my goodness, it hurt. Like, it hurts a lot. This is weird. What is happening to me? And I've never had chest pain in my life. So I
It's
never,
almost like a double whammy because like your heart's racing and then you start panicking and it makes your heart race more. Yeah.
So I get into the ambulance, we go to the hospital. They tell me, "Oh, you have a viral heart infection." I said, "Okay." In this case, it's called pericarditis, and the sac that surrounds the heart is called the pericardium. It's inflamed.
Yeah.
And because it's inflamed, it's causing pain, it's causing problems. When you breathe in, it hurts. When you breathe out, it
Yeah.
hurts. It really does hurt. I get in the hospital for 3 days. They give me this diagnosis and I'm feeling better. It takes time, but I was feeling better and whatever. And great. Cool. Living life, going to college, taking German, getting a 4.0 GPA, like doing whatever I
Oh,
wanted.
German. Wow.
Yeah. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? I spreche
Oh, there we go.
yeah, because my parents lied to me. They told me that I was German. We're not. We found out through ancestry.
Now you are. You're
Well, like how you found out you were, Ashkenazi. I found out I was not German.
that's a letdown. You're like, sheesh, their whole life
How?
you
What did
haven't
I take those 2 years of German for? What did I learn it for? Ich bin ein Berliner. Like, I mean, I know I'm Ashkenazi, my mom said. That wasn't the debate. It was like my dad who was saying we're German, we're German. But anyway, so,
Yeah.
4.0 in college, living life, doing great. And then like a few months later, I start like sweating real bad out of nowhere.
Yeah.
My blood pressure is like stroke level high. And my heart rate was starting to get high and I was getting headaches and dizziness and whatever. I said, oh, this is weird. Tell my doctor all of this. I get diagnosed with something at first called IST, which is inappropriate sinus tachycardia. It just basically means my heart is in a normal rhythm, but it's just a high rate, right? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense because, I was feeling my heart racing at times and okay, cool. But this was a clinic, so they're like, we're not really equipped to deal with cardiology. You should go see a cardiologist. So I did.
Yeah.
I've been with this cardiologist since then. I still see him. I'm actually going to see him Monday. And now I got to tell him I have a genetic disorder, by the way.
Let's clear this up. You have just gotten these results back for the genetic testing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So nobody
Confirmed.
knows. No, only the orthodontist, so my son knows. But
Well,
like,
now people will know.
yeah, now he'll know. He might actually find it interesting. I don't know. So I get all these weird symptoms. I go to cardiology. They're like, okay, let's do a stress test. And a stress test is basically like the non-CF version of the 6-minute walk. So you're on a treadmill. You're hooked up to an EKG. They monitor your heart rate, your blood pressure, everything like that. My blood pressure was 190 over 90. It's
Wow.
very high. And I've never
Yeah.
had blood pressure problems in my life. Blood pressure's high. Heart rate's at 200 on the stress test.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, well, this is weird. This is abnormal. Let's stick some Holter monitors on you. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So I literally have like this cassette thing strapped around my neck that I wear for 30 days. Back in the day, that's what they used to do. Now they do the little patches. This is like the big box with the leads on it and everything. Looks
Oh
like
man, that's
it
crazy.
looks like
It's like an EKG almost. It's like
it's
they give you
yeah,
a
so
freaking full EKG on you.
so it's an EKG, it's a continuous one, it's a loop recorder. So I think every 24 hours it like, I don't know, it's a 30 days. So I think it just records for 30 days straight. And then it'll mark any kind of abnormal heart rhythms or heart rates and whatever. And then somebody goes over all the data, they sift through it all, and then they tell you something, right?
Yeah.
So this doctor's like, I think you need to see an electrophysiologist. electrophysiologist. An electrophysiologist is a cardiologist who specializes in abnormal heart rhythm. I'm like, okay, do whatever you gotta do. That's fine. So I go to that doctor. They have all of my records from the other doctor. They're going through it, and I said, you know what? I think you have POTS. I'm like, well, what is
Oh,
that?
wow.
Because this is 2009. Now we know POTS has been caused by COVID and this and that and all these other things. But this is in 2009 where like hardly anyone was getting diagnosed with this. So I'm like, what is this? So
Yeah.
they do the tilt test, and the tilt test is the same thing. Heart rate is really high, 200 when they get lifted up. Blood pressure is really, really high. And they're like, okay, you got POTS. All right,
Yeah.
cool. I have an answer. That makes sense. Get put on medicines and things like that. I learned to control it a little bit. It's not cured. It's not like medication is just the band-aid for it. But now I know things. I know I'm not going to be running marathons. I'm not going to be doing
Oh, there
intense
goes that dream.
cardio. Yeah, there's that.
Running marathons in Germany is out of the question
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. So no, so like, I know to keep hydrated. I know not to stress my body out. I know to keep away from the heat because I'm heat sensitive and this and that. So cool, I start like living within the parameters. Cool, we have an answer. It's POTS. All right. So
Yeah.
24 years old POTS. Then when I'm 31, I just turned 31 because Oliver's birthday was almost coming up, and I was in the hospital for his first birthday a few weeks before his first birthday. And
Yeah.
I was 31 I had him, so I was 31. He was turning 1. Yeah, so I'd be around 31. And I was in the hospital because I had cellulitis on my neck. And
Yeah.
cellulitis is a really nasty infection. I had a fever. Like, it requires IV antibiotics.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting put on IV I think vancomycin they tried to give me, and that just made me red and itchy. And I said,
Oh, you must have
no.
had an allergic reaction or something.
Yeah, the red man syndrome, I think they call it. So they took me off the Vanco and they gave me these other IV antibiotics. And then I'm sleeping one day and I'm just, sleeping. And then the next day they're like, so let's talk about last night. I'm like, well, what is there to talk about? The doctor's like, well, your heart skipped 30 beats in a row. Oh, it's ventricular tachycardia. I'm like, okay, never had that before. They're like, you know what? This is now like a possible electrical problem too on top of the POTS or something like that. Can we put in a device? I said, okay. So they put this little device, they do like a little procedure. It's like local. It doesn't hurt. It's really tiny. It's like this, like less than like the size of a paperclip. So, and they put it in my chest and they start
So
collecting.
would they consider that an invasive, or would they just
No,
consider
that's
that
really
just
not
like,
invasive. No, no, no.
okay,
No, I would
okay,
consider, yeah, it was pretty easy. For me, it was as easy as like an IV because I have bad veins. So
okay,
IV insertion is pretty difficult for me usually. But I consider
yeah,
this pretty easy. It has to be done by an electrophysiologist or cardiologist. It does have to be in a cath lab or something like that.
yeah,
But as
and they
far
don't put you under for that or anything like
no,
that?
local. It worked great.
Oh,
I didn't feel a thing. So they insert it, they start collecting data, and then I start getting calls because what happens is this data gets sent over to a center, and then the center will alert you when they find something abnormal. And I start getting calls exactly like that. Like, hey, are you okay? We just saw your heart rate is up to like 190 or 180 or whatever. Do you have any symptoms? This and that. And I'm like, no, I guess I'm okay. But this keeps happening. So I had this device in me. It lasts up to 3 years. This thing keeps happening where they're calling me for arrhythmias. My cardiologist is like, and the electrophysiologist. So like, you know what? We need to do an EP study. So this is where it gets a little wild. You're
yeah,
under twilight sedation. And
that's
they
always
stick
fun.
and they stick catheters up your groin because you have a major artery in your groin, and that's where they
Yeah,
it goes up to the heart, and it's got like little probes on it. And what they basically do is they mess with your heart on purpose in a controlled
okay,
setting with the right staff and the appropriate doctors to see if they could replicate whatever was going on my little loop recorder. They do whatever it is they could do. They whatever. I don't know how they stress you up, but they do.
yeah,
So they're like, okay, start waking up, everything's done. I don't remember anything but being starting to roll over to my side and like the very, very, very end. So like I don't remember the pain of it, but I just remember like, hey, can you roll over for us? Can you get
and
up?
you
Like,
do everything they tell you to do. It's
yeah,
crazy.
that's what twilight sedation is. You're able
Yeah.
to respond, but you don't remember anything. It's like just like amnesia.
Anybody who's ever had a colonoscopy or an
Oh yeah.
endoscopy, they do
Yep.
that to you. And it's one of the funniest things ever because
Oh,
they'll ask you questions and you answer them, but you're like out.
so yeah, you can answer them, but you don't have no idea what's going on, which is
Yeah,
great
yeah.
because I
And then
don't
as soon
think.
as they stop administering, you're out. You're like just a couple of drops and then all your clarity comes back and you're like, what just happened?
So, they do everything they have to do. And then he's starting to explain to me, the doctor is like, well, I couldn't find the ventricular tachycardia. We couldn't replicate complicate that. But we found out you have an electrical issue. I said, okay. What's that? It's called
Yeah.
AVNRT. It means you have an extra electrical pathway and your heart rate went up to 300 during the test. And I said, okay. Well, so what did you do? Well, we tried to ablate it, but we really couldn't because this pathway is so close to the pacemaker, your natural pacemaker in your heart, that if we ablate it, you're going to end up with a real pacemaker. So we really can't do anything. I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, you know what? They tried. But I'm going to tell you the recovery from that is brutal because how the ablation works is they burn parts of your heart. Your heart is like an electrical box. And think of like AVNRT as like a circuit. And a circuit doesn't complete with it. It just keeps going around and around and around. That's what it really is.
I'm sure that makes you feel really fatigued and just not right.
I feel like I get kicked in the chest by a horse sometimes. Like it's yeah, yeah. So, they tell me, well, we really can't do anything. We tried, but this is the best we can do. If we try to do anything more, you end up with a real pacemaker. And like at 30 years old, you don't want to hear that, or 31 years old. So I'm going to tell you the timeline for clarity. October is when I went to the hospital and got out. Around Thanksgiving is when I had the ablation. And they're
Okay.
like, expect 6 months of recovery from it. And I'm like, okay. And I did. And it was very painful. You feel these like chest pains from like where they burned it, and you
Yeah.
feel so out of breath and you're tired. But so, now you have the pods and then you have the AVNRT. And then in between all of that, they also found out I have a valve problem because I had an echocardiogram.
So how frustrating was it to you to get all of these multiple diagnoses without any clear answer?
I want to say my cardiologist has been very good, so I'm okay with that. It was really the geneticist and the genetic disorder thing. I was just frustrated
Oh
that I
yeah.
have it. Yes. So, like being told I had POTS and being told I had AVNRT, that was a drop in the bucket compared to me just trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with my child. The whole thing and how it played out really upsets me more than any diagnosis I've had so far. I thought it was kind of weird because you have the POTS, you have the AVNRT, I had the kidney reflux, and then now I'm being told, oh, you have a valve problem too. Like, okay, like how unlucky can one person be? I don't know. I don't feel bad for myself though. I just take it as it is and I just do whatever I can to just live with it. So like I have central AC and I don't really go out in summer. I took my job the way I do because I'm off a lot. Yeah, so you just learn to live around it. The whole thing is with the skeletal dysplasia in TRPS, it says 10% of people with it have kidney problems and heart problems. And guess what? I got both.
Wow.
So, everything started adding up and it kind of feels good to have like answers finally after this whole hubbubaloo and finding it, just being on this like diagnostic odyssey, I want to call it.
I think we all, once we get into that point, it's like a eureka moment where it's like
Yeah,
once everything comes together and you're like, wow, it's almost
yeah.
earth shattering, you know?
But you know what? I think House would have solved this mystery before anybody else. And it's like and it's like weird because like sometimes I wish it was House, but
Yeah.
then to actually live a House episode is not fun.
He would have had 5 or 6 other doctors telling him he was wrong just to finally be
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, but it only would have taken an hour to diagnose.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
It would have been quicker, but it's really not fun to have to live it out. It's
Yeah.
funny on camera when it's like an episode and it's TV and it's fake and whatever. Being House in real life and
All the
living
time in
that.
between is crazy. It's just
Yeah.
unbearable. What changes do you think need to happen in the medical system for rare diseases like this?
I think people need to be educated. Especially pediatricians. I think pediatricians, I know they're not geneticists, but they do have genetics class in, medical school. Pediatricians should be using face to gene. This
Yeah.
way, if they come across a person and they're just like, well, these facial features seem odd, symptoms seem odd to us. Let me take a picture of the child, put it into the app, and see if it could come up with any kind of reasonable answer. So I think AI needs to be used more in a clinical setting. I think doctors need to.
That was actually going to be my next question. Do you think that AI is going to be the future of diagnostics going forward?
I do. See, a lot of people fear AI, and I get it because of the implications it could have. Like, AI can make people look like other people deep fake. It's scary. But from a health perspective, I think AI is going to end up being better than people. I bet you from like radiology standpoint, when you're sitting there in a dark room, you're a radiologist, you're trained to look at like all these anatomical differences, but you're still a person and you're going to miss things. So I think we're going to get to the point where AI is going to be way better and faster at
You're going to be able to
diagnosing people.
download an AI Dr. House and he's going to
Yeah.
be able to speak like Dr. House to you.
He's going to be snarky too. Um, so yeah, so no, AI is gonna I think it's gonna be a powerful tool. I think it's gonna end up in like in terms of medical, it's gonna result in faster, more accurate diagnoses and diagnose things quicker than the human eye or the human person could. So I think AI is a very good tool and I think it needs to be utilized, but I also think doctors need to have more awareness in genetic diseases. I think that geneticist I saw maybe never saw a case of it, so he wasn't
Yeah.
able to recognize it. However, what I don't understand is my fingers are crooked. I never broke them. So like I'm trying to be patient and understanding that maybe he never recognized it, but at the same time I don't understand how you could miss crooked fingers on people. My short thumbs that are like
Yeah.
rectangular shaped. Come on. Like that's
Yeah.
just weird. I'm sorry. I gotta say this. I'm a weird like this is biologically a weird, anatomically a very odd situation.
Doctors need to learn to ask more questions, or at least the right questions to people, because I mean, I could see somebody walking in with crooked fingers and thinking, okay, this
Maybe they
person might
broke
have
them.
broken all their fingers and they fused like that. But when
Yeah.
you have all of these other things going on,
Right. The kidney
plus these
problems.
things,
Yeah,
it's
the
like,
kid.
come
Yeah.
on,
The growth
put two and two
problems.
together.
Yeah, the crooked fingers.
AI has to listen to you, right? I mean, you type
Well,
to it and it has to listen.
AI gave me the answer that no doctor could. That's the
Yeah.
wild part.
That's at the beginning stages of AI.
Yeah.
So once we see more development, it's going to be
It's gonna be
so
better.
crazy.
Better. I think it's gonna be better with, like, detecting cancers, breast cancers, cancer on imaging, mammograms, like, I think it's gonna have a lot of good implications, but people still need to be people. You still have to have the clinical knowledge, and you still have to have this human set of eyes. I don't think AI is gonna replace people, at least for now. Maybe down the line it will. For now, doctors and AI have to work together.
The thing I'm most concerned about is that they're not going to allow that to happen. Obviously, there's so much money in the medical business. I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody's even going to allow that to advance in that manner.
No, and it's funny because my coworker is in med school and I was telling him my story. He goes, I don't know if I could help you, but if I can, just let me know. And I said, Justin, you can help me. And this is all you have to do. Because he wants to be a pediatrician. And we talked about this. And I also wanted to be a pediatrician until I found out I was bad at math. So, like, I do have a lot of medical knowledge in general. And I was helping him through his med school journey, like applying and all that stuff, and like his classes he was taking. Like
Yeah.
genetics classes and stuff. I'm not saying I'm as smart as a doctor. But I have a good background in it, I guess. And I said to him, like, look, if there's nothing else you do, please use Face to Gene. Please listen to a parent. And please understand how AI is going to help you be better at diagnosing things. And I said, if you ever come across a case where you feel like the child or the person's features, they're just a little different or odd, or you think there's something different about them, but you're not sure what it is, please just put this kid's picture into Face to Gene. Just see what it says. If it comes
It's not going to hurt to try it.
Exactly. It's not going to hurt. And Face to Gene is very private, which means when you put a picture in, nobody else could see it. So
Yeah.
it's not like your data is being shared with other people. It's just for you and your clinical tool. And I said, please tell your med school friends about it. Please let them know that there's somebody out there who is diagnosed with a disorder with the help of AI. Because I would have never, with a disease with 200 people, I would have never known. I didn't know what TRPS was. Like,
I just looked up the numbers a little while ago. It says that zero point 0.2 to 1 in 100,000 people in the world. That is insane numbers. That
I
is some
I
really
think at
crazy
this
numbers.
point it should be ultra rare. I think it's considered ultra
Of
rare as well.
course.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. So it's like, just doctors need to listen to their patients. I understand that something could look like something, but then be something else. But in my case, all of these clinical signs were missed. And people who work in genetics even tell me, I am so sorry you had this experience. That geneticist should have done due diligence and you got, you fell through the cracks and this and that. And that's why I'm talking about it. I don't want people feeling bad for me. I have a good
Yeah.
life. I can't complain about it. But I'm here because I want people to know that if your instinct is something is wrong and that you're not being heard, it's probably the right instinct. And
Do
if
you
you
think that any of that has to do with I don't want to come across as somebody who's just, crapping all over the medical. I am somebody who goes through the medical system a
yeah,
lot. I'm
yeah,
always involved with it. And I think how much of this stuff do you think is these people just being severely overworked?
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's lack of certain education. Rare diseases need to be more known about, more prevalent in training. Even if it's something like they'll never ever come across a case of, you just don't know. You could be that one person, that one doctor that makes a world of difference to a child or a patient. And I told my friend, I said, why do you want to be a doctor? What is the motivation for this? Because they're overworked. They're not probably paid enough, and they have to deal with
No.
insurance bullcrap and
Yeah.
people like using the ER as their own personal doctors and all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, I like to look at it from every side of the spectrum. For me, my GI is primarily the issue with my CF. Like, I have a GI doctor. Granted, he specializes in CF. He's the only GI doctor out here in SoCal, Kaiser at least, that is specialized in CF GI. So I actually have to use him just specifically for my issues, and I can't get a hold of him ever. And it's super hard, but he's part time, which I think is kind of a mistake on their part to have somebody so important be part time. I also think he's extremely, extremely overworked because he's not only dealing with CFGI, but he's dealing with every other type of GI
Yeah,
on
and
top
he's
of that.
probably also consulting at hospitals too.
Yeah.
So there definitely needs to be more of an incentive for people to go into specialized fields. And I know with CF, especially like CF related, like liver disease and diabetes, it
And I
doesn't
think that's a
work.
problem. I think we can all relate to in the sense that when we have a job, a lot of the time somebody quits and our boss says, here's his workload.
Mhm.
And no money is given extra, and you just need to do it or you're out of here, right? So I think that's happening with doctors, and it can't happen. It's just not something that we
It's
can
not
do.
acceptable. And the thing
No.
is, too, I think I feel the same way as you. I don't want to crap on the medical field because if that first doctor had never done genetic testing, I would have never actually even suspected that there could be a genetic disorder at play. So there are good doctors, there are bad doctors. I think medicine, it's a very complicated issue because you have
Yeah.
insurance, you have the uppers, you have to make
The
your
insurance
patients
is a whole
happy.
different animal. I
Yeah.
don't care if we crap on the insurance places.
Yeah, no, me neither. Me neither. Healthcare should be free. So, it's a really complicated issue. It's multidimensional. It's not one thing, it's several things. But then when you have special like I don't even have specialists. That's the thing. I have to go all the way to the city now. And
Yeah.
whether it's CF, whether it's CRPS, whether it's another genetic disorder, like this has real life consequences because now my son has such a delayed diagnosis. I have no idea how much time left he has to grow.
You would have had time to help him maybe or implement some type of regimen into his life
Yeah,
that might have helped
something.
out a little bit more.
Something, because
And
I never.
as much as you say he's excelling so much right now, you imagine like how much more could he be excelling even with
Yeah.
the help that he could have gotten from the beginning?
Yeah, and, like, I didn't get that help. So with TRPS, it's probably like this for you too, like, you need CF care because CF diabetes
Yeah.
does not work like regular diabetes. You go to, an endocrinologist, they're gonna think you're type 2 or type
Yeah,
1, and they're gonna treat you the wrong way,
of
and
course.
it's like that here because
Even the ER, the ER
yeah.
visits are stressful. You wait 8 hours to
Ugh,
get into a doctor and
germs?
then
Ugh.
yeah, and then then you gotta sit with all the germs, and then these people don't know anything about this, so you're kind of like
You have to teach them.
undertreated. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
teach them everything about it. Like CF pancreatitis is so different than regular pancreatitis. It's not caused by alcohol, it's
Right,
not
right.
caused by food, it's caused by the mucus plugs.
Yeah, it's
And
like the build-up scarring.
yeah, there's nothing you can do, but then you walk into the ER and these people look at you like, "Oh, another alcoholic." You know what I mean? Because that's
Right.
primarily what happens with people. They drink too much and they get
Oh,
pancreatitis.
oh, another diabetic. I bet she's got a really bad diet.
Yeah, yeah, see? Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way. And that's the thing here for me is like with the skeletal dysplasia, there's no orthopedist on Long Island that deals with it. We have these joint problems, and you go to an orthopedist, you complain of knee pain, they're going to x ray your knee. But when you go to look up TRPS, the hips are the problem. See, not the
Yeah.
knees. So you're going to be looking, you're going to be imaging the wrong thing, and then you're going to be telling
And you're
somebody
like,
that
"Oh,
they're
this person's
fine.
fine." Yeah,
Yes,
you just
because
have some
nothing's
type of
exactly. But then when you go to x-ray the hips, you're going to find something else completely different. And the reason why you're feeling it in the knee is because the hip problem goes back down to the knee and it's the referred pain that you're feeling. It's not your actual knee, it's the hip. So, you have to find people who are knowledgeable. The problem is there's really nobody. For me at least, and I have to go to this center all the way in New York City, and it's going to be worth it because they could help me, and that's fine because, now my son is getting more care than I ever did. I didn't get any because nobody knew. Like, we got the kidney thing under control, fine. but not the joint problems. And I gotta say, the joint problems with us starts really young. Like we're complaining about it as early as like 8, 9, 10 years old.
With the fingers and with all of that stuff,
Yeah.
it's got to be painful.
Yeah, for my knees, it mostly is not so much my hands, but that's the other thing is when they see the growths on the hands, they'll think like rheumatoid arthritis, and that's not what it is. I know it's so rare, so I don't expect people to like, oh, we're gonna be TRPS specialists, like la di da di da. No, but there needs to be a standard of care, and care should be accessible by everybody, regardless of what you have, whether you're a geriatric person and you're fine, you're just a little bit older, or you have a specialized disorder and you need specialized care. There needs to be some standard though. Like there really does.
We talk about, oh, well, pediatricians should be more educated on these things, but like, of course they should. But then you look at somebody like a geneticist that's not studied up on this stuff, and you're
That's
like,
what I don't yeah,
come
that's what
on.
baffles
Yeah,
me.
come on,
Like,
you
how did
know?
you miss every single sign? And even if he couldn't give me an actual diagnosis, I wish he could have just said, look, you know what? These symptoms are unusual. It probably could be genetic, or it most likely is genetic. He didn't inspect me. He would have seen the crooked fingers. He probably would have said, huh, that's weird. Let me see what can cause crooked fingers.
The internet has so much on it, let alone, these people going to school. Like the internet has so much info on it nowadays that it's easy for anybody to go through and look through these things. Especially if you're in the field, you should know something about it.
So, I'm trying to take this as an opportunity to educate the doctor. So, I
Yeah.
spoke to Oliver's orthodontist and I said, hey, this is what our diagnosis was. This is what I know about it. This is how it affects our mouths. And the doctor was like really receptive to it. He said, thank you so much for sharing this. I could tell just from his x ray that he had something because his jaw angle's at like 50 degrees and he needs all this work done now. I just want other doctors to have like that mindset. Learn from your patient. Just take a moment, listen to their story, and just make a mental note of it somewhere down the line in case you ever come across somebody else with the same.
I personally wonder that, I mean, I know that these people see so much of this stuff of varying condition, but I wonder if like dentists notice anything when you bring people in with jaw issues and teeth issues like that. I wonder if they can look at the teeth and go,
He
oh,
did.
that's a little.
He did. He said, like, this angle of the jaw, it should be at like 30 degrees and it's at 50 degrees. We could already
Oh,
tell.
wow.
I said, since this causes delayed teeth, sometimes there's missing teeth, extra teeth, there's all sorts of teeth problems involved with this specific disorder. I said, is there anything you could tell me about Oliver? And they're like, yeah, his teeth are delayed. So
Oh,
even
wow.
and he's not trained in genetics. I mean, he has genetic training. Like I said, they go through this through med school, like genetic disorders. But even he could tell just by looking at my son's mouth that we have skeletal dysplasia. So, I got lucky in that regard. But I bet you everyone else I go to is going to be just like, okay, so what is it? Like, what do we do for you? What do you want us to do? And it shouldn't
That's
be
the
like that.
craziest thing ever. Yeah.
Shouldn't.
Because, like I said, then you should be getting paid at that point.
Right. If I have to educate you, where's my money? Bill me, not you.
Yeah, for sure.
Split the billing.
You have to pay somebody to tell them how to take care of you, That's so
Yeah.
crazy to me.
And I'm just doing this so that other doctors can recognize maybe the signs or the symptoms and just go, oh, okay. So that it doesn't result in a delay of care or it results in a better, faster diagnosis just for somebody. If I could just help one person in the world, that would be great. Like that, then my
Yeah.
mission is done. That's all I want to do. I just want to help other people. I want to help educate people.
Amen to that. I feel the same way.
I'm not here to, complain about my life and tell you all my problems. I'm here to tell you this is what we have, this is what it causes, and this is what we can do for it. Just listen to me, really.
There's a lot of people out there that have undiagnosed conditions that, have grown up saying, oh, well, I'm just going to, let this ride out. I'm
Yes,
probably fine. I'm
that's what
probably
we did.
okay. And then finally it gets to be unbearable and you end up with a total shock because you're in your 30s and you find out you have something and it totally changes your view on life.
Yeah, not only that, but then you kind of, question yourself this whole time. Oh, is this real or are these symptoms not real? Like the doctors are telling me fine, but my body is saying something else. Like, who do I listen to? Do I listen to myself or do I listen to the medical professionals? And you trust them as doctors that they're doing the right thing and that
Yeah.
they're saying the right thing and that they're looking into the right thing. But we all know now that's not true, not true
Yeah.
at all. And I think doctors could do better, but I understand it's not that doctors stink or suck at their job. There just is not enough education.
As we get to our closing here, I want to ask you, where can people follow your journey or get a hold of you if they'd like to? Or, do you even want to put that info out there? I want people to be able to follow along with Rachel after she leaves this podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I am on social media. I am on Instagram. If anybody wants to shoot me a message, it's Killerish Queen. We could probably link it or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But if anybody has a story that they want to tell me,
And that YouTube page with that awesome
oh
keytar
yes,
playing.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Always. You could just comment on the
Rachel
video.
plays an awesome keytar, everybody, and you
Oh,
should
thank
really check it
you.
out.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, music is always my first love, and I don't let it stop me. But I was like, oh, I have weird fingers. Like I don't like seeing my fingers on camera, but
Yeah,
it
but
is
that's
it's just
even
part of
cooler.
me.
That's even cooler. I mean, it just makes you so unique. It makes it even cooler.
So, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I mean, it's private, but you could shoot me a message or something like that. You could drop me a comment on YouTube or, something like that, one of my music videos or any other videos I do. If you have a story, I would love to hear, but I would also really love to hear a medical person's take on this. I honestly wonder if anybody's listening and they are MD, if they are a doctor, if they're, a practitioner of some sort, what they think about what we're talking about.
You know what's interesting is my next guest that I have lined up messaged me. He's a CF warrior himself, and he
Oh,
also is in the medical field.
really?
He's a clinical pharmacist. So I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
That is so cool. I wonder how he
Yeah.
manages the public. I could see a hospital. I think hospitals are weird. They are very sterile, but they're also very germy at the same time.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
for
wonder if
sure.
maybe he has his own like regimen where he wipes everything down. He wears like protective PPE
Yeah,
and
I'm
things
just as
like that.
excited to ask him all of those questions. He just got a double lung transplant and a liver transplant just recently.
Do you know how
So,
rare it is to have both?
yeah, no, that's insane.
Yeah, because I don't want to scare anybody and I don't want to scare him, but we know transplants in lungs 5 years about that's what they last. So I know he knows he's trading one disease for another already. I'm sure as a pharmacist, he knows all the medications he's got to be on
Yeah,
now and how to
yeah,
handle it and what to expect. I mean, look, congratulations because he got the gift of life. And I
yeah.
think before I want to, stop and close everything, I do want to say please, guys, sign up to be organ donors because you don't know who you're gonna help.
I have
If
one on my license too. If
Yeah, me
anybody
too.
wants my jacked up CF organs.
Well, you know what? They probably no, they're probably not gonna be able to take, your lungs, but, your eyes, they do cornea transplants. I'm gonna urge people I do hope that people sign up to be organ donors because, as a kid, I had blood transfusions, and I didn't talk about it, but it's part of because I was born so early, and I was so
Yeah.
small, and I needed so much blood work done that I needed blood transfusions, and I'm AB positive, but back then, this was before they screened blood for HIV
So
and
AB
AIDS.
positive is the one that's hard to get. You can get from A and B, or you can't get from. You have to get somebody AB, right?
Okay, so this is how it works. Blood-wise, I can only give to other ABs, but I can get from everybody, but not
Oh,
for the
okay.
plasma, it's the reverse.
Okay. So O is the one that you can't
I'm
get from anybody but O's, and you can
O's,
give to
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, O's are I'm the universal recipient and O's are the universal donors.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
can get blood from everybody, but not plasma. It's the opposite. It's a little confusing. So, if I ever need, God forbid, if I ever need organs, I have a good, hopefully, pool to pick from. But overall, I feel like organ donation is a really wonderful gift. You really don't know who you're helping. Sometimes you are able to contact donor families, but you are literally giving the gift of life to
And it's not
somebody
going to
else.
hurt you to give them either, because I
No,
mean, then when they embalm you, they take a
yeah.
lot of your organs
Yeah,
out.
I was gonna say when they do autopsies, they remove all your organs. I want to actually tell you something interesting yet creepy. They take out your boy parts. So I watch a autopsy technician on Instagram. He's very like people ask him questions and he'll respond. And they say, "Is it true that you take out your boy parts during an autopsy?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yes, we do because we have to check them for signs of trauma. So if you're dead, you don't need your organs."
So
And
let's
look,
try not to die anytime soon. All the
no,
men out
hopefully
there.
not. But there's a big conspiracy. People think that people kill you so you can get their organ. That is so not true. When you're dead, you're brain dead. They pronounce you brain dead first. And what they do is they keep you alive artificially in case you end up making your choice and want to be an organ donor, that those organs are usable. So no doctor is killing you on purpose. Like, I promise you, like, there's a whole bunch of testing you have to, I think you have to have at least like one or two doctors certify that you're brain dead and that they check your eyes and they do brain scans and like they have to testify that there's no electrical activity in your brain. And I
Yeah,
want to make it clear brain death is death.
you're
So if
gone.
you're yeah, you're gone. So if I'm gone, I don't need my organs. You're
Yeah.
gonna rot in the ground anyway. You might as well do something useful as your last will, as your last thing you could possibly do before physically dying. So on my license, I'm definitely an organ donor. I really don't care. You can take whatever you need from me. If I do something good for somebody else in my last act, hey, good for me. Not that I'm not gonna know about it, but I'm just saying, like, consciously looking back, like, yes, if I'm ever in an incident where we're brain dead or I'm brain dead, and I know beforehand, like, because I'm conscious, I'm alive, right? So I know I'm gonna, when I die eventually, if I'm brain dead and my organs are usable, definitely recycle them. That's what I want. Yeah. And I make that clear to everybody. Just so, because, sometimes people fight over this stuff too. No, I'm
Yeah,
making
I've
that
had people look
100%
at my license and they go, "Why are you organ donating?" A lot of people will say, "Well, they take those organs and they sell them on a black
Yep. It's
market,"
not
and
true.
that's a big thing that I hear a lot too. And it's like, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe there's cases out there somewhere, but they're very rare and few and far in between. So
Yeah, and they're
I
not
don't
being
think
done
that's
by
gonna
legit
happen.
doctors. If people are doing
No.
black market organs, then they're not ethical to begin with. They're dicey people. You might have like
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd working for you,
You
you
might
know?
actually get killed by this doctor. I mean, you never
Yeah.
know if he's that crazy.
Yeah, if he's crazy. But that's not
Yeah.
normal. It's really like there's a whole
You can
standard that
usually
needs to
tell before you
Yeah, yeah. Oh, like Dr. Nick
if he's
from
cutting you up with rusty
if a
knives.
doctor ever goes to you and goes like, "Hi, everybody," from The
Yeah.
Simpsons, you rock. Yeah, Dr. Nick is the kind of person that would do that to you.
Yeah, for
But, like,
sure.
no, but, like, there's whole standards and everything like that, and just please don't believe junk just because somebody is
Do
saying it
your own
from s
research. We always have to do our own research.
Yeah,
Research your
yeah.
doctors, research your physicians. All of these physicians are supposed to put their stuff out there. You're not supposed to just never be able to find them and there's some
Right, just
mystery
like how
person.
we have social media, so do they. They have
Yeah.
their rating, like
They have
ZocDoc and
reviewed
Goo
yeah, they have
Yes.
doctors reviewing sites where you can review these doctors and see what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, absolutely, and I would say definitely do that too, but, like,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to be an organ donor. Like, my state also has the, opt-in registry, so I'm also registered from the state. So, like, there's 0 doubt if I die, this is what is gonna be done. Like, it's on the state, it's on my license, like, "Hey, take what
You
you
might
can."
save a
Like
CFer with some lungs, you know?
Yeah, there you go, you need a new set of lungs, Zach, I can give it to you.
Yeah, see, there we
Yeah, are you
go.
AB positive? There you go.
I don't know what I actually, you know what? I got it tested. I think I was A. I'm either A or B. I don't want to say
Do
I'm
you
one
know
or
what
the
your
other, but
parents were? Because if you're like, so in my case, one, I'm AB and my son can only be A or B.
I think my mom is O, and I think I inherited my dad's, which I think is either A or B. I got a test. You can buy tests on Amazon actually. And they have tests where you can poke yourself and do like
Oh,
yeah, there's a test that you can do to test your blood type.
DIY
So
blood typing.
yeah, you can poke yourself and then you wet this little thing and there's these
Oh.
I don't know if
I
they're
think they did
enzymes
that in
or what.
biology class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 they have a
it reacts to
coagulant
the
thing.
paint.
I
Yeah,
think
so
mine was A or B, but I can't remember off the top of my head. One of those 2.
yeah, so we did it. I only had it done because of prenatally. What they want to do is they want to make sure your baby's blood type and your blood type are not going to conflict because there's
Yeah.
something called like Rh negative, and if mom is Rh negative, if I'm like AB negative, or in my child is positive, the
Yeah.
body will try to get rid of the baby. Like no
Oh,
joke, and
whoa.
then you have to get
Whoa.
shots for it. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
We're still a little broken, us people, you know. We haven't fully gotten past the being broken part yet. Maybe one day
Yeah,
we'll evolve into
yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of species that cannot kill our babies in our womb,
I mean, the
accidentally.
body's like when you think about how the whole body works, it's very wild. Like, think about it. Like, all this stuff is happening at the same time just to keep you alive, and you don't know it. Everything is so
We're
automatic.
like machines.
Yeah, our blinking is automatic. Everything is like most things are automatic. Digested, unless you got CF, then I'm sorry. Then you're digested.
Oh man.
Yeah, your gallbladder and your pancreas is angry at you. Most things are automatic, and we don't think about how it all really works together.
Yeah, the weird analogy I have for CF is if you think of the mucus in your body as motor oil in a car, right?
Mm,
And so basically, what motor oil does in a car is lubricate the motor, lubricate everything up so it can run nice and smooth. The mucus in our bodies is meant to lubricate our body and make everything run smooth from your GI, your endocrine
yeah,
system, your lungs.
everything.
If it clumps up, and it gets all nasty and clumped up and old. It's the same thing as oil in a motor. If it clumps up and gets nasty and it gets old, everything starts breaking down.
I really like that analogy because it's so simple, and I think it's an accurate visual because old motor oil looks nasty.
Yeah, all of the little
It's like
debris. Imagine that's
clumpy,
bacteria.
it's congealed, it's
Yeah.
like discolored.
Yeah.
So I think
And then
it's
you
a really
start
good
having
point.
all of these problems, your body's a motor and your oil's not running right, everything goes
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I mean, this is like life-saving motor oil. Like you need this mucus to act right. Otherwise, you
yeah.
get all of these problems,
Yeah, it stops up
pancreatitis,
everywhere.
everywhere. Your
Yeah.
whole body's coated in mucus, your sinuses,
I don't think
everything.
people understand. I think, that's one of the things I find that people are most surprised about, especially when you get into the CBAVD, the absence of the
Oh,
vas deferens, because people don't realize that mucus plays a huge role in development of our reproductive organs in our mother's wombs. And if that mucus is not the right consistency, there is organs that just straight up do not develop. The kidneys, vas deferens, it won't develop properly. So it's important that stuff's the right viscosity, let's say. One of the big reasons I started this podcast is obviously have people in this chronic illness community be heard. I think right now more than ever in the world that we're living in today, medical is becoming the biggest topic. And I think it's an awakening of senses where people now feel like they need to be heard and they need to talk about these things. So I think in closing, I want to ask you if someone is listening to this podcast and they're dealing with a medical mystery
I
such
hope
as
you
yours.
are, people. I hope you are. It's really fun. I'm gonna follow this forever and forever. I'm telling you. Like, I'm so excited for the other people, and I guess I just realized I'm the first guest. I don't
You
know.
are the first guest. Yeah.
Wow. Finally,
Yeah.
I'm
So
first in something.
so the way this one's going to work is I have one preloaded episode that is just me kind of breaking down my illness so I can get
That's
people to
cool.
understand. And then I'm going to release that next Wednesday. It'll give me time to edit yours, make it good.
You know what's nice? It's our own words. This
Yeah.
isn't doctors speaking from clinical experience. It's patients speaking from their own experience and their own,
Viewpoints.
yeah, their own
Everybody's got one,
viewpoints. Yeah,
And I
yeah,
want everybody
exactly.
to feel comfortable with that. I can
Yeah.
always look at every side
Because doctors
of
are
a
going to
story.
tell you, oh, you're this, and this. A textbook is not real life.
I
Like you
learned more
found
from
out,
watching patients talking about this stuff than
right?
I
Like
learned from my doctors.
you learned for yourself that one of the biggest symptoms is the absence of the vas deferens. You don't need a textbook to tell you that.
Yeah, and it's very unique to that disease. And once you
It
find
is.
that one thing, it's like, whoa, I'm on to something now.
Now, do you know what mutation you have? Are you a double delta?
So I'm an F508 del and I'm an R1066H, which is a
Are you?
very
Is
rare
that the
mutation.
Ashkenazi?
I believe the F508 del is in the
Oh,
Ashkenazi.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the R1066H, I think I was just a lucky guy. I believe the Ashkenazi is coming from my dad's side, and my mom's side, I believe, is where I got that R1066H gene, which is a very rare form of CF. It's very strange. It is one of the reasons I have such a hard time getting proper help.
In the end, we're all intertwined in some way, and we can all learn from each other, and that's what I want this to be. It's just not just us talking about all the crappy things we dealt with in life, but like the other stuff too. Like we all have something in common at the end of the day, and that's what's beautiful about it.
Exactly what my thoughts are. I had, like I said, that the podcast I recorded already that's in the chamber here, you basically hit the nail on the head. What I said in that podcast is it's really about us staying connected and realizing that we're all part of the same community in a sense.
And I think
We're
that's
in
lovely.
sub communities of a greater community.
And it's a good thing to know. Like we're here to help other people. We're here to just tell our stories, not have anyone else speak for us. Just say what we want to say in our
Yeah.
own way and not let things define us.
And in that final question, if somebody is listening or dealing with a medical mystery like yours, what do you think the number one piece of advice that you'd like to give them going out of this podcast?
Listen to your instincts, listen to your gut, advocate for yourself, and don't let anyone make you feel lesser for it. If a doctor is telling you that it's all in your head or something else, just try not to dwell on that. Just keep advocating and advocating and advocating, and then somebody eventually will listen to you and go, wow, you know what? You are right. Because that's what ended up happening to me. The genetic counselor said, you know what? After everything you said, this really does sound like it's TRPS. We need to test for it, and this is how we're going to do it. So just keep
Yeah.
advocating, keep listening to your gut. If you're not getting where you need to be, just keep trekking on. Do not give up, because if I gave up, I would have no answers to this day.
Well, I think that's a really solid piece of advice for everybody listening. Everybody, please check Rachel out. Check out her pages. Check out her YouTube. Check out everything. I'm going to put the links that she provides me in the descriptions of wherever this goes. It's going to go everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, and I wanna probably post this to my YouTube too because it's real. You know what? It's been generally like really nice to sit down and talk to somebody about like what we're all going through, and that all of our stories are similar. Because you found out that you were a late CFer, you didn't get the help that you needed. I was 40, actually technically not even diagnosed yet, but because I know how the disease works, I know that I have it because how it works with TRPS is if you look like you have it, this gene has 100% penetrance rate. So you either have it or you don't. And then if you look like you have it, then you do have it. Because my sister, my third sister, so my youngest sister, does not look like me at all. She looks like my dad. She doesn't have that problems that I do. She's a little bit taller than me. She's 5'8". An inch. It's an inch difference. It's not that. It's still not that bad. I'm still pretty tall. But she doesn't have the hair problems. She doesn't have the joint problems. Her fingers are not crooked. Like nothing about her is the same as like my mother, myself, my sister, my child. So I'm still like technically not diagnosed, but I know I have at this point because that's where he got it from. He got it from me. So now my step is
Yeah.
to get tested and stuff like that. But still,
Yeah.
like you could be. I mean, you could be 60 years old and be diagnosed with a genetic disorder and you just never knew. You know.
And like we
So
said, that is something that could help you, if you catch it earlier on, can help you manage it better in the long run. So I just thank you for coming on, Rachel.
no,
I'm
thank you
going
for
to
having me. I'm so I'm literally
I
so
am too. I
excited.
I can't wait to put this out. I really
Me
can't
either.
wait to put this out. And everybody, please share it to somebody. Please put it out there. We
Yeah,
want
I
to get
definitely
Rachel's
will.
story out there for people to see. And that's the point of this podcast is I want the guest stories to be out there for others to see. That way we can reach more people. And if there are other people out there like Rachel that have TRPS, which may I also add from the medical research on this disease, a lot of people in America, in the world, don't even know they have TRPS because it's so understudied.
I was gonna say that too. I was gonna say, it's really easy to miss the signs. And in my family, all doctors miss the signs. But if
Yeah.
you really break down everything, then you start to realize these are really unusual features. But because it affects everybody differently, and some people could be more mild than others, it's very easy for a doctor to just never realize it's anything. And honestly, if there's somebody out there with TRPS and you are listening, I really would love to hear from you and I want to hear your experience. And I would love to connect with you because I would also like to know what life has been for you. Like,
Oh,
I honestly want to know because, growing up, not knowing that I had it, there was like nothing. Nobody explained to me that I was going to look a certain way or that my hair was going to be a certain way or that my fingers were going to be a certain way. And the thing is, they're born straight. Your fingers are born straight when you have it and they get crooked as you get older. So
oh,
my son's fingers are starting to curve now too. And it
that
wasn't
is
like that
really
before.
crazy. I
Right.
wonder if there's something to do with the bone
Yeah.
softness and
And
then it hardening
I'm wondering
eventually.
if it
And
has to do with like the growth
did you
rate.
notice when you were a child, like if you had any extra like flexibility in your
Yeah, I
bones
did.
or
Yeah, I did.
see, there we go.
But nobody ever said anything about it. And my mom even said, yeah, because my mom did ice skating, like
That is
competitions.
crazy.
She
Yeah,
did
that's
ice
some
skating.
athletic
And
stuff.
so she also said, like, hey, just so you know, we're hypermobile. And I'm like, okay. So I just thought I inherited my flexibility from my mom. But now
Yeah.
it actually turns out the skeletal dysplasia, especially TRPS, causes excess hypermobility. It causes excess flexibility in the joints. And that is what causes our joints to break down and cause the pain later on. Now, my son is the
Wow.
same way, except in his case, because he had early intervention, he has it in his reports from when he was 18 months or 2 years old that he has hypermobility already. So he's a little bit luckier. And I kind of wish I had known when I was younger that I had something because I obviously, understandably, got made fun of because I looked a little different or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. People
As
are
a
pretty
kid, my
cruel.
facial features were a lot different than that. Like as an adult, I feel like everything looks more even, and you probably couldn't tell just by looking unless you research this condition and you learn to spot all the features. But like as a
Yeah.
kid, I was an awkward looking kid. Like I got a lot of crap from other people and oh, why is your hair this way? Why do you look this way? Why is your nose this way? I'm like, I don't know. And I wish I had an answer. And now my son has an answer and I could prepare him. Like so, it's also different too because bullying in the 90s was like you got away with it. Now you can't get away with anything in
Yeah.
school. So my son's really lucky It's got a nice.
The teachers used to bully you in the
Oh
90s, you know?
yes. Oh
It
yeah.
wasn't just the kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, people used to misgender me a lot because I had short hair because my hair, so that's the other thing is the hair doesn't grow. Like your hair just doesn't grow with this. So, it's not an unreasonable thing to like be misgendered or whatever. That's fine. But,
Yeah.
I just want better for my kid. And now I can explain to him, this is what you need to know. You need to watch out for joint pain. You need to tell me if your joints are hurting you. I have to explain to him like your hair's probably gonna fall out just like me and your hair's not gonna be really that great, but it doesn't matter because who you are inside is what really counts.
Yeah.
Outside is just a honestly, and the outside for everybody, everyone's gonna age. Nobody's gonna stay like great looking forever. We're all gonna die and end up in the ground at some point. But it really is true. Like your inside really matters because your outside is gonna rot. We're all gonna rot. We're gonna slowly rot
Rachel
before
with
we
the
die.
with the
I know
dark humor here.
but what really counts is the inside. Your inside doesn't like your heart doesn't change. Like who you are, your core is never going to change. And that's something you're gonna keep forever and ever and ever until hopefully the day you die. That's what it is. The inside counts. That's it. The outside is just a facade.
Well, with that, I say we bring it to a close. I just thank you so much for coming, Rachel.
Oh,
And
thank you.
thank everybody who tunes into this. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
please. It means a
Support
lot to
Rachel.
me. It's a
Support
no,
her.
no, no. Support Zach. He's the one that came up with this genius
Thank you.
idea. I don't know. Maybe I'll find out like being a collaborator later on. Who knows?
Yeah,
Like
that would be cool.
you don't
Anybody
know.
wants to, yeah. And
Yeah.
this is the thing. We want people to be involved in the podcast in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
Yeah,
So
if you need something from me,
anybody's
let me
interested.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would love to
awesome.
be part of it. And I would also, like I said, love to see a medical perspective. So please, if there's anybody out there with some like medical insight, I would love to know what you think about these stories and these situations because I want to see it like you from all views. Like I'm sitting here telling my story and I'm telling you about the failure that I faced, but I want to hear from you and like the medical aspect and like your training and what it's like, what we can all do and work together to help each other.
I would love to also, eventually with this podcast, I really want to be able to bring doctors and
Yeah.
patients on at the same time, have them go through their perspectives simultaneously on the podcast. I think that would be a good joint interview
That
type of
would be
thing as
amazing.
well.
If that ever happens, please let me know because I am down for a second. I'm down for a repeat. I would love.
Everybody's always got an open invite back to the Breathe
Yeah.
Easy
Oh,
podcast.
you're so nice. Well, look, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much, Rachel. Thank you. And everybody tune in, okay? We're just starting here. This is the start of something real.